Hello all, this is Paranormal Mike with Southbound Paranormal. First, I would like to apologize for the noise coming from my PC. Um, those are fans I have installed and to try to keep it cooler, but them being high performance fans, uh, they make more noise than they are quiet, so that's a trade-off. So anyway, I apologize for that, but now on to what I've been wanting to speak about. Recently, I've become disillusioned by the paranormal field due to a few things. One of them being that investigators are trying to pass off certain things as facts when they're in fact not. For example, when they're talking, doing a session and they're like, we're talking to a demon or we're talking to the spirit of a little girl. Stop right there. They don't know that, and you don't know that. It's there's no way of knowing that it's spirit or whatever it is talking to them says that it is, but doesn't mean that it is. It could be something toying with them for all they know. Just take it with a grain of salt. So, unfortunately, in some cases like this, it's used for dramatic effect for ratings, and a segue into what I want to talk about. So here we go. This is one of the many topics I wanted to touch on to give you guys in the community some information on documented info about demons. Note that none of this is going to be like any from those new age books from those phonies that claim to know what all this stuff is, and they, without doing any info, it's just stuff they make up off the top of their head. So none of that. This stuff, or information, I should say. This information that I'm presenting is going to be from Judaic sources such as the Babylonian Talmud, the Midrash, the Rashi, the Tanya, and the Torah. So, if you guys are not familiar with that, go ahead and just look up these sources and read away. Anyway, that being said, let's get on to what I've found out. First, one of the first things that come to mind is what are demons? Well, from what I've gathered, they're pretty much like you and I. It is written that they're like us in that they eat, they drink, they multiply, and they are mortal. They're also their characteristics are also compared to angels in the fact that they have wings, they float from one end of the earth to the other, and they know what is about to be. Also, we should note that I forgot what the Hebrew word for it is, but they're often referred to as hairy ones. Not to be confused with Bigfoot, but may describe a certain aspect of them. So, on to a second. A second thing or question that comes to mind would be, well, what are their powers? Well, according to the Midrash, their powers are limited to the night and are diminished at dawn. That comes from a story that I read about a woman who sends her son out to get her boy out to get something from the barn or whatever it was, and in doing so, he's met halfway by a demon. And before the demon could kill him, he hears the rooster crow for the to announce dawn is there, or what have you. So in that story, the demon tells the boy that tell your mom if it wasn't for that crow and for the dawn, you would be dead right now. Of course, it's not said exactly like that, but you get the point. Another thing that I found out, let's see, another entry from the Midrash indicates that their powers at the greatest during the 3 weeks between the 17th day of Tammuz, if I'm pronouncing that correct, to the 9th day of Av. I imagine there's probably going to be some people correcting me about that. But as far as I can tell, this year, that falls on the weeks between July 19th and August 10th. So be careful if you are investigating out there around those times. Let's see. And a little note I had in there as far as demons being able to create things to use or to use against you. They cannot create anything bigger than a grain of barley. It is written in in the Midrash and the Rashi, if I remember correctly. Third, another question that came to mind is how many of them are there? Well, as it turns out, according to the Midrash, there's quite a few of them. What I have here is, I'm just going to quote it directly, but I believe it's a more of a hyperbole to describe how many of them there are, but not necessarily that many. But the quote is, "There is not one small space as a yard of ground upon which there are not thousands of demons ready to injure a man. The image of God on man dims the sight of demons." Or dims the sight of demons from seeing man. So what does that last part mean? The last part is in reference to there is some sort of impairment that God puts in front of demons to prevent them from seeing us directly, to harm us. This is the way I take it. And in that reference is also that the demon's ability to see you is dependent on how many misdeeds or how evil you are, or your evil deeds, so to speak. So that's one thing to keep on. That's one thing that indirectly that I found out in relation to when I'm investigating, is that whenever bad stuff happens and continues happens at a residence, there's something they're not telling me about, and I found that out in some investigations, which I wish I could tell you guys about, but just know that they were still doing bad stuff, which attracted the evil to them, and hence they never got rid of what was getting to them, whether it be a spirit, a demon, or what have you. Let's see. And speaking of such, demons don't necessarily have to touch you to injure you. From what I've read so far, all they have to do is look at you. Their look or their gaze is enough to harm you in many cases. There's one count of a demon whose name is what was it? It was the name translates out to be arrow. Oh, Kativ. And Kativ, his thing was that not a man or beast could look upon him without instantly falling over dead, which there was one exception to that, but the guy died later on. But that's one possible explanation of how this description came to be, because it describes what this demon looks like. But no matter, because after I believe it was the first temple was built, when the first temple was built, no demons could stand on Earth anyway, so most of those demons were either destroyed or gone, or whatever happened to them. So that's one other thing I found out. But speaking of harming and injuring, I wanted to touch on this because this really bugs me sometimes. When you see the 3 scratches on somebody, and you're like, "Oh no, that's the mocking of the Trinity," and that bugs me. Why? Because one, it's a fabrication. It's a fabrication in the fact that if you know anything about the Trinity was created during the Council of Nicaea, and that was around, was it 325? Yeah, 325 AD. So it's not found in the Torah or the New Testament, so the whole Trinity thing is it's a fabrication. One possible explanation I've found in the fact that I was reading an account of Solomon building the second temple. If I'm correct, somebody correct me out there. I'm just working off the top of my head right now with a few notes. In that the demon that was impersonating Solomon at the time when he kicked him out, unbeknownst to the people and to his wife, they had tricked him into taking his shoes off, and the demon's foot resembled that of a rooster, and there's also some other a rabbinical reference is to rabbis referring to the feet of demons resembling that of a rooster. That's something to think about next time. Are they being scratched by a demon's hand, or are they being scratched by the foot? But that's as much information as I have right now. I just wanted to get this out real quick and just see what you guys thought about it. Again, if you guys like it, just give it a thumbs up. If you guys don't, you know what to do. As always, just leave comments and suggestions below, and that's it. This is Paranormal Mike, and I am out of here. See you next time.